Lydia had always felt invisible in her own home. While her siblings were praised for beauty, charm, or cleverness, she was called plain, awkward, and worthless, as if those words could define her. Her parents rarely spoke to her kindly, and when they did, it was often tinged with sarcasm or disappointment. Even at family gatherings, Lydia became the center of cruel jokes, her appearance twisted into laughter while she forced a polite smile, letting the shame roll off her shoulders as best she could. Yet beneath the teasing and mockery, Lydia held a quiet strength. She knew who she was and what she could do. She was resourceful, patient, and diligent, qualities that were invisible to her family's shallow eyes. She tended the garden without complaint, repaired clothing, and helped her siblings with schoolwork and chores. Her hands bore calluses, her arms grew strong, and her mind sharp, even if no one at home saw it. Still, some days the loneliness pressed down like a weight she couldn't lift. She watched her reflection in the mirror and saw only what the world had told her she was: plain, awkward, and unremarkable. She yearned for a life where she could be seen, not mocked, where her abilities and heart mattered more than the curve of her cheekbones or the color of her hair. The turning point came one evening when her parents, seeking amusement, made yet another cruel joke. "Why don't you take a walk to the ranch?" her father said, smirking. "Maybe the rancher will take pity on you." Her mother laughed, as though her words were harmless. Lydia's cheeks burned, but instead of shrinking into silence, she made a quiet decision. She would go. Not because she wanted pity, but because she wanted a chance, any chance, to show that she was worth more than their cruel laughter. Packing a small bag with her few belongings, Lydia slipped out of the house under the fading light of dusk. Her heart pounded with both fear and hope. For the first time, she was leaving not just the house, but the weight of being dismissed and mocked. The horizon stretched ahead, full of uncertainty, yet promising something she had never known, a chance to be recognized for who she truly was. As the town disappeared behind her, Lydia held her head high, silently vowing that no one, neither family nor fate, would dictate her value again. The sun was low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the rolling fields of Caleb's ranch. Caleb, a broad-shouldered man with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent his life taming the land, was inspecting the fences when a rider approached. His brow furrowed, he wasn't expecting visitors. As the figure drew closer, he realized it was a young woman, traveling alone and looking weary, her clothes dusty from the road. "Can I help you?" Caleb called, his voice steady but cautious. The girl hesitated, then straightened her posture as if steeling herself. My family sent me," she said quietly, avoiding his gaze. "I'm supposed to help at your ranch." Her voice trembled, betraying both fear and hope. I can work. I can cook, clean, do chores, anything you need." Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly. He had heard of families sending their daughters off in jest, using them as pawns for amusement or mockery. He studied her carefully, the nervous shift of her weight, the anxious glance toward the horizon, the faint blush on her cheeks. Something in her presence struck him differently. This wasn't a girl trying to deceive or trick him, she was offering what she had, humbly and sincerely. "Do you understand what you're asking for?" he said. "This isn't a place for games or pranks. The work is hard, the hours long, and life here, it's not easy." She met his gaze, her eyes steady despite the fear lurking behind them. "I know," she replied softly. "I don't have much, but I can give my best." Caleb was quiet for a moment, watching her. He saw no vanity, no pretense, no hint that she expected reward or praise. She offered honesty, humility, and a willingness to work, and to him, those qualities mattered more than appearances. "All right," he said finally, gesturing toward the ranch. "Come on, then. Let's see what you can do." As they walked toward the cabin together, Caleb felt an unexpected warmth. There was something in her resolve, in the quiet dignity she carried despite being mocked all her life, that intrigued him. This girl, sent as a joke, held a strength and worth that he recognized immediately, and he knew, even now, that she might be exactly the person the ranch, and perhaps even his life, had been missing. The next morning, Lydia awoke to the smell of freshly baked bread and the soft lowing of cattle in the distance. Caleb had given her a small list of chores: feeding the animals, sweeping the barn, and preparing breakfast. At first, the tasks felt overwhelming. She had never managed so much on her own, and the weight of proving herself pressed heavily on her shoulders. Still, She worked diligently, moving with quiet determination. Her hands were steady as she tended the horses, careful not to startle them. She swept the barn floor, gathering straw and dust without complaint. When she entered the kitchen, she kneaded dough with patience, letting it rise slowly while she prepared porridge for the workers. Caleb watched her from the porch, arms crossed, as he always did. But unlike the mocking looks she had endured at home, his gaze was thoughtful, measured, and entirely free of judgment. He noted the way she handled every task with attention to detail, how she treated the animals with gentle care, and how she maintained a quiet calm even under pressure. By midday, the ranch hummed with the rhythm of her work. Even the older hands, initially skeptical, found themselves impressed by her skill and dedication. She anticipated what needed doing before being asked, moving with confidence that grew with each completed chore. Her presence began to feel natural, like another thread woven seamlessly into the fabric of the ranch. During a brief moment of rest, Caleb approached her. "You're not like I expected," he admitted, voice low but sincere. "I thought this would be a quick trial. Instead, you've shown patience, skill, and," he paused, searching for the right word, "worthiness." Lydia's cheeks flushed at the praise, unfamiliar and yet welcome. She had spent years being told she was inadequate, that her efforts were worthless. Hearing recognition, not mockery, for the first time made her chest tighten with cautious hope. As the days passed, Lydia's confidence grew alongside her bond with Caleb. She was no longer the ugly daughter sent as a joke, she was a capable, dependable presence, quietly earning respect and proving her value not through appearance, but through heart, skill, and unwavering perseverance. By the time the sun dipped behind the hills, Lydia realized something she had never dared to hope: she was seen, and for the first time, it felt real. Life at the ranch had settled into a quiet rhythm, with Lydia rising before dawn to help Caleb tend the animals and prepare meals. The ranch was vast and open, and for the first time in her life, she felt a sense of belonging. Yet, peace has a way of attracting attention, and not all attention is welcome. Word of Lydia's presence spread quickly through the town. Neighbors whispered about the ugly daughter now living with a respected rancher. Some expressed admiration, while others questioned why Caleb, a man known for his discernment, would accept her. The whispers eventually reached her family. Lydia's parents were stunned and enraged. They had expected the prank to embarrass her, not elevate her, and now she had become the subject of town gossip, and their own humiliation. One afternoon, a carriage arrived at the ranch, and Lydia's parents stepped down, their expressions a mix of anger, confusion, and disdain. "What do you think you're doing here?" her father demanded. "You've no place on a man's property, especially one like Caleb's." Lydia took a deep breath, standing taller than she had in years. "I'm not here because you sent me," she said calmly. "I'm here because I wanted to work, to prove myself, and Caleb allowed me that chance. I've earned my place, just as I have earned my respect." Her mother's face flushed with embarrassment. How dare you," she began, but Caleb stepped forward, his presence calm but commanding. "She isn't a child, and she isn't a joke," he said firmly. "She works hard, treats this land and these animals with respect, and has proven herself every day. If you cannot see her worth, that is your failing, not hers." The family faltered, realizing their cruelty had not only failed to define Lydia, but had also highlighted their own pettiness. Whispers from nearby townsfolk, watching the exchange, added to their discomfort. As her parents retreated, defeated, Lydia felt a swell of pride. She had faced the ridicule and judgment of both her family and the town, and had emerged stronger. Caleb remained beside her, silently supporting her, a quiet anchor of trust and reassurance. For the first time, Lydia understood that her worth was not defined by her family's cruelty or the opinions of others. It was something she had earned, something visible in her actions, and something recognized by the man who truly mattered. The morning sun spilled gold across the ranch, illuminating the wide fields and the cabin that had become Lydia's home. Birds chirped and cattle moved slowly across the pastures. For Lydia, the sight was more than picturesque, it symbolized everything she had earned, a place of respect, safety, and belonging. Caleb approached her as she stood by the porch, brushing the dust from her hands. There was a softness in his eyes that Lydia had come to trust, a quiet admiration that no words could diminish. "The animals are fed, and the barn's in order," he said, a hint of a smile on his lips. "You've done well." Lydia felt a warmth spread through her chest. Praise had always been foreign to her, she had been dismissed and ridiculed for as long as she could remember. Now, it felt real, deserved, and unshakable. She realized she was no longer the girl who trembled in the shadow of her family's mockery. She had proven herself not only to Caleb but to herself.
Thank you,"
she said softly, meeting his gaze. "Not just for letting me stay, but for seeing me, really seeing me." Caleb stepped closer, resting a hand lightly on hers. "You've earned your place here, Lydia. And more than that, I value you, for your heart, your strength, and the care you bring to everything you do." Her lips curved into a genuine smile, unburdened by fear or doubt. For the first time, Lydia felt free to embrace her worth. She looked out at the ranch, the mountains stretching endlessly beyond, and realized she had a choice: to stay, to build a life, to live on her own terms. And she chose it. That evening, as the sky turned a deep amber and the last rays of sunlight kissed the hills, Lydia and Caleb walked side by side across the fields. Their partnership had grown from trust, respect, and shared effort, blossoming into something deeper, something neither of them had expected, but both had quietly hoped for. The house that had once been a place of ridicule was now alive with warmth and laughter. Lydia's family could no longer define her, and the whispers of the town held no sway. She had found recognition, love, and a new beginning. As the stars emerged in the clear mountain sky, Lydia felt a profound sense of peace. She had been mocked, dismissed, and underestimated, but she had risen above it all. Here, on this ranch, with Caleb by her side, she was finally seen, finally valued, and finally home.